Into voting now. In Texas, a hearing is set later this month on the lawsuit over that state's voter ID law. Attorney General Eric Shawn has sued to stop it and could target North Carolina's new voter ID law next. Mr. Holder has begun nailing states he believes are engaged in voter suppression. States deny that. This all after the Supreme Court decision invalidated part of the landmark Voting Rights Act. Well, many states have patterned their voter ID laws on Indiana's. The Supreme Court ruled that law was constitutional, and as the former Indiana Secretary of State, Republican Todd Rokita, helped draft that law, he is now a member of Congress, joins us now dealing with these type of issues, and you're in Indianapolis. Congressman Rokita, welcome. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Eric. Good to be back with you.
Yeah, what do you think Eric Holder is going to do next?
Well, I don't know. I mean, look at it this way. We have Benghazi, we have Fast and Furious, we have an IRS, we have an NSA, all scandals, and this is what the man decides to focus on. It is really appalling, the demagoguery and race baiting that he's using, especially on the heels of the Supreme Court decision that said, you know what, whatever the Voting Rights Act did good for this country, and it did a lot of good for this country. We are past that point now, and we need to let the states carry on with what is really in their purview, and that is the election process.
Well, you know, Holder and the others, critics, say voter ID, in their view, discriminates against minorities, suppresses the vote. Like in Texas, you got to drive 200 miles to a DMV office to get one. Not all the counties have DMV offices to get this. So they say it's intentionally and politically motivated to suppress the minority vote. So what did you guys do in Indiana to try and make your law more fair? It did pass the test at the Supreme Court.
It did, and we applied common sense. It's what we call Hoosier common sense. We put some decent safeguards in. We didn't charge people excessive amounts to get an identification card. If it was, in fact, they were free. We had education programs, and we basically, well, my strategy was we just removed every argument that was brought up. We just took it off the table by removing the reason for it. And the operative word that you're using, Eric, is they're saying these things, but they cannot prove these things, because I doubt really, as it was the case in Indiana, that they even exist. In fact, the first election where Indiana used the photo ID law, turnout actually went up compared to a similar election cycle. So it went up about 2%. It wasn't a magic bullet for turnout, but what it did, Eric, is say, you know what, since the government, since the state is now going to do those things that we do in all other places of our lives, we're going to spend the time and come out and vote.
And you guys,
at least, are giving us confidence in the process.
And you guys in Indiana have had some amazing election fraud cases, the one up in St. Joseph County on those Obama and Hillary Clinton petitions. And speaking of Hillary Clinton, she says voter fraud is a phantom and not even real. Here's what she said a couple of weeks ago. I want to get your reaction.
Sweeping effort across our country to obstruct new obstacles to voting, often under cover of addressing a phantom epidemic of election fraud.
She calls it a phantom epidemic.
Yeah, just another sorry cry to try to rally a base of people that they think they need, and that they think, as a group, as a category, a group of people who aren't smart enough, who are too stupid, frankly, to be able to act in mainstream society and do all those things that you need a photo ID to do, including voting. I think the American people are beyond it. I think they've had it. And, you know, this race baiting is a part of our past, an ugly part of our past, and I think voters ought to hold Hillary Clinton accountable to what she's saying.
Well, it's going to, you know, continue as in court, too. 30 seconds left. Syria, there's potentially going to be a vote in Congress. Where do you stand on potential action against Syria?
Well, I'm skeptical of the need for action. I'm not seeing the national security threat. I will continue to explore it on behalf of the people that I represent and see that those dots, see if those dots can be connected, but very skeptical at this point. We have to remember that these are two groups of people in Syria that if they weren't fighting each other at the current moment, they'd be designing ways to fight us, okay? So I agree with the editorial that was in the last segment wholeheartedly.
All right, Congressman Todd Rokita, we thank you. Those briefings start on Capitol Hill in a couple of hours from now, and certainly through the next week when Congress reconvenes. Thanks from Indianapolis.
Yes.